Hi Ishika, welcome to Clatterpult.
Hi.
First of all, congratulations on securing such a good rank.
Mm.
Why don't you start by introducing a bit about yourself? What's the rank, where you from, and how long did you prepare for?
So I'm Ishika Malik. I got a rank of 430 in CLAT 25. I am from Kolkata and I have been preparing for a couple of years now.
So when you say you have been preparing for a couple of years, what do you mean? What has your timeline been like?
So I started preparing mid 2022 when I was in class 11 and I attempted CLAT 2023 which was held in December 2022. So that was just like a practice attempt of sorts. And my first attempt was CLAT 24 which was in December 23. And I could not get through to my preferred college. So I decided to take a drop, a complete drop. I did not go for any college. And I just prepared for CLAT. I thought that if I do this with my full concentration and my full determination, I would be able to crack it. So
I think you were right about it. Yeah, I think you just needed a dedicated period of time to be able to work on CLAT. So I think it's always quite interesting to talk to people who have cleared it in their second or third attempt because I feel there's so much that changes. So, how has it been for you? What do you think changed the most from, say, last year to this year?
I would say just my general confidence, the support system. I would not say that I did not have a support system. I definitely did. But when you're in a transition phase from school to college, you see all your school friends, all your childhood friends going to college and you staying behind and not having a college. It becomes difficult. And I am someone who is very academically driven. So to not have a college, to not get into something that I had planned out for myself, it was definitely difficult. And it's been a very difficult year, but I feel like after seeing the result, all of it was worth it.
Right, right. I think that's inevitable if you take a gap year, especially in a country like India, no matter where you're coming from. If you take a gap year, people cast a lot of aspersions on you. And that just makes everything worse. Like you're already struggling with your scores and personal struggle. But I think it worked out well for you.
Yeah, it is.
So, with respect to CLAT as like an exam that you decided to write alongside, say, your 12th standard exams last year, and law as a profession you wanted to choose, what made you think of law and what made you think that this is something that I want to commit to?
So, law was actually not a very straightforward choice. It was a backup for me. I went into class 11 thinking that I would be a journalist, I would go into mass communication or something of that sort. And law was a backup, it was always a backup. But I got to know about Clatterpult, I got to know that there is something called CLAT, and it is the entrance exam for the premier law schools in the country. And I thought that I might as well give it a try. Like, there's no harm in just being enrolled in it for a couple of years or
Yeah.
1 year. And once I started, I think I interacted with the faculty. I got to know the crux of all the subjects. And while it is not the same as law school, I feel like it just made me feel like I belonged in a way. And that is very important to me. For me, for the longest time, I did not know where I belonged, which stream or field I belonged to. So, law gave me a sense of purpose, and I feel like law is extremely diverse. You can go anywhere with law. And I feel like that's a major plus point when it comes to law. So, ultimately, I decided to stick with law.
I think that is quite interesting to hear because you could figure out what you really want to do in these years because a lot of people who jump too quickly in the preparation for CLAT and then in this whole journey, they later realize that maybe law is not the right thing for them or maybe they're attracted to something else. And I think it's quite nice of you to have tried and tested both of your primary career options and you could decide on one. And yeah, I think it made perfect sense for you to choose that. But anyway, so once you decided to pursue CLAT, how did you go about your preparation? You said you heard of CLAT through Clatterpult. So did you join Clatterpult right after, or did you take your time deciding what to do about it?
So, I actually heard of Clatterpult through my friends who had always wanted to go into law, and they told me that they were enrolled in a coaching and it would help them maybe do well in CLAT or just assist them with
Right.
CLAT. And I told my mother about it, and my mother was the one who told me that, why aren't you doing it? And I thought about it that, right, why am I not doing it? And so, yeah, we just decided to go ahead with it. We spoke to the concerned people and we had a good interaction. We talked at length. We understood what CLAT was like as an exam. We understood what it would take, how much dedication, how much effort. And at the end of the day, it's all about hard work. So, how much of that it would take. And we felt like it could be a good option. And I think in my initial stage of prep, I would say since I joined mid 2022, that half a year was all about getting acquainted with CLAT and like all the subjects. And I feel like that developed a very strong base for me to build up upon like in the later phases.
I think CLAT has subjects which you're not already familiar with in school. It has aptitude based subjects. So it takes quite some time to acclimatize yourself with the subjects and get used to them before you even start to think about excelling at them. So that buffer period of 5 to 6 months, I think most people generally require. But once you decided to prepare, how did you go about the subjects? Like, what was your individual subject strategy, and did it change in these 2 years? Because that always helps students to know that what's not the thing to do and what's the thing to pursue.
Yeah. So I would say one subject that I've always been strong in, one subject that I've always enjoyed has been legal.
Oh,
And I think it is the most time consuming section, but I feel like if you really understand it, if you really apply your concepts there after reading the passages and understanding the questions, then you can really score well. And legal is ultimately the tiebreaker in case people get the same score. So legal is a very important subject, and because I liked it, I'll talk about my order of attempting in my first attempt. So I went with maths first, then I went with legal, then I had English, then GK, and then logic. So one thing that I did not realize is because legal takes up time and because it requires you to significantly invest a lot of your concentration, I did not realize that maybe putting it right at the beginning would not work out for me personally. So I liked legal, I would enjoy legal, but the subject that I would score consistently well in would be English. So this year I decided to tweak my strategy a bit. I went with maths first because I feel like we have to always allot time to maths, and if we push it towards the I don't know later sections, then it becomes a problem. Like we don't end up allocating as much time as we would want to. So I went with maths first, then I went with English. So I knew that two of the subjects that I am strong at and I was strong at maths, those two would be covered. Then I would go into legal. And I never had this pressure of going in with a clear mind because I feel like the moment I had some reading done, that is when my mind works best. Like I need to actually read something in order for me to function and read the longer passages better.
When you try and gain a momentum from the other subjects in order to delve into a subject that's very reading heavy.
Exactly.
That makes sense, yeah.
So that's how I tackled legal. And after legal, I kept GK as a buffer because I never wanted to do 3 reading sections in one go. And logic has always been a weak section for me. And I feel like I improved a lot this year. But at the end of the day, when it's a weak section and you know it, you would not want to put it at the beginning because my aim has always been to capitalize on my stronger sections. And yeah, like if you do well in your weaker sections, then good. But at the end of the day, it has to be about your stronger sections. And I feel like one way of really understanding whether or not your order that you've been attempting the paper in works out or not is skimming through the paper right at the beginning. That is what I did. So when we got that strange logic question this year, the analytical reasoning question, I was not entirely thrown off by it because I had seen it at the beginning, so I could strategize accordingly.
I think it makes perfect sense. All the things that you have just said are generally things that I advise other students as well. Because I also find it extremely important to strategize the order of sectional attempts that you're going to do in the actual exam. And it is amazing how you strategize based on your strengths. And CLAT is, I don't like it when students try and do the best at everything in CLAT. I feel like it has never been an all attempt paper. It has always been a smart attempt paper. Like figure out which section works best for you. Try and do more of it. Try and score better at it. And I think that is amazing and that worked out quite well for you. So you mentioned that you came across that logical reasoning question, and I've heard a lot of students just cry and whine about it and think that that was when they felt that this paper is not going to work out for them. So how did you act? Did you attempt? Did you end up wasting time? Because quite a few people ended up wasting quite some time on that single question. So how did it go for you?
I did not really bother allocating much time to it. I think I might have spent 10 minutes at most.
Right.
So, since I attempt maths first, I checked the two maths questions and I could tell that I'd be able to solve one of the questions. So, I did that. And then I went straight to the logical question because I felt like analytical reasoning and maths are very similar. Similar, yeah. So I solved, it was a sitting arrangement question and it was pretty easy. There was an error in the question, but at the end of the day, it was easy. So I arranged it and I remember cross checking with the options in the questions and I thought there was something wrong. But again, I did not want to take my chances, so I decided to just move on. I thought that I'll have time at the end of the paper and that is when I'll come back to it. So I moved on and I feel like moving on is very important and that is something I did not do in my first attempt. I remember being very thrown off by the GK section because GK was more of reading comprehension. It has been more of reading comprehension in the last 2 years. So I spent a lot of time in GK in my first attempt and that is what like threw me off and sort of messed with my time allocation. This year I did not want anything of that sort to happen. So I just solved it once. I cross-checked and then I just moved on. And then I came back to it at the end of the paper when I had around 15-20 minutes left. So I remember I could not solve the other maths question. I think I might have solved 4 questions, but I was not sure, but I went ahead with it anyway. I just marked the options and thankfully out of 6 I did get 4 correct. And I tried to attempt the sitting arrangement once again. I could not get the arrangement right, so I just left it.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. If it's not working out, then you don't have unlimited amount of time. So if you have 10 minutes left and if you have a passage left, you would rather do a passage where you have nearly 98% chances of getting answers correct, yeah, than spend more time on a question that you know is unlikely to be solved.
Exactly.
And the point that you mentioned about GK changing over the years. So, what has your strategy been for GK as a subject in your preparation?
I have devoted a lot of time to GK regardless of what it has been like because it's not predictable.
Yeah.
Just because one year you get GK, which is very easy and technically more of English than GK because of the fact that you have all the answers in the passage, does not mean that you'll get the same the next year because everything is pretty unpredictable. So I feel like we still have to go about GK the way we would normally prior to 2024, CLAT 2024. But at the same time, we need to understand that we can get GK of this pattern as well. And when we get GK of this pattern, I at least have a tendency of cross-checking constantly that am I getting this correct? Like I don't want to mess up somewhere, just so easy. So I feel like that is a completely valid reaction in the moment because you've prepared for so long and you don't want it all to go in vain just because of one section. And I feel like again it is completely valid as I said. But at the same time, we need to understand that there are 4 other sections,
Yeah.
which are very important as well. So we need to, as I said, allot time to each section. We cannot cross that time. I remember allotting 10 minutes to GK. I did not cross 10 minutes.
That is great.
Yes. I remember in my first attempt, I might have crossed 20 booths, which is why I could not attempt more of maths, which was also very easy last year. Though, sorry, in CLAT 24.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and like a part of the strategy is realizing that no section has to be taken very personally. There are all these questions that you're supposed to solve. Either you solve it or you move on. There's no point getting stuck. And I think what you mentioned about GK, now you still need to prepare regardless of the pattern changes, and what you also mentioned about maths and logic and the time you spent on those questions and did not really mind not being able to solve all of them. I think the thing that everybody needs to understand is CLAT is a very volume based paper, and if logic, legal, and English and GK honestly form a chunk of the paper, I mean, the non analytical part of logic, that means that you need to spend time on technical questions only once you are done dealing with the volume of the questions, because those things make a difference when the paper is supremely easy, when so many everybody nearly is attempting almost all the things. That's when those things make small differences, or like maybe big differences, honestly. But not when you haven't been able to solve your legal. You cannot be spending so much time on a math question or getting stuck on a GK question. So strategizing in that frame of mind when you're writing the paper, and strategizing prior to the paper, that how you're going to strategize forms a major component.
It does, yeah.
Um anyway, so GK we have already spoken about. What were your sources like for GK?
GK, I think people talk about reading the newspaper, but honestly, for me, it did not do much because I remember always being very sleepy while reading the newspaper. So I used the newspaper as a resource for English and logic, like getting acquainted to the passages. And so GK, I used to watch this daily current affairs show, and there are many such things that you'll find on YouTube. So YouTube is an amazing resource. So if you can really utilize it, you can reap the benefits out of it. That is what I did. I went to YouTube, and that was just for my daily GK, so that I'm updated on what's happening. So that when I read the compendiums at the end of the month, I am not thrown off by any random topic. But yeah, like compendiums, as I said, are very important. And I would recommend sticking to one or two sources, preferably one, because the moment we have too many sources, we get overwhelmed and we don't have time to revise. Revision is also very important at the end of the day, particularly for CLAT, where depth matters.
Yeah.
So I stuck to a couple of compendiums, and by the time CLAT came around, I revised from just one of them. Clatapult has its compendiums. There are other coachings which have their compendiums. And so I think what we need to do is figure out what kind of compendium works for us, because there are people who would prefer detailed writing in compendiums. I preferred that. And then there are people who would prefer more pictorial representations. So whatever works for whoever is what you need to figure out, because it's not the same for everyone. That is, I think, the most essential aspect of CLAT. There is no one size fits all.
Right. And I think this has become more and more important given the vast diversity of sources that has come up on the internet. You'll find 10,000 varieties of compendiums. And when I used to prepare, like long time back, there was just 2 or 3 coaching centers and just 2 or 3 proper compendiums that were available, that just kept you focused and did not make you worry whether people are doing like all these varieties. So still, it's still valid to this day that you need to choose one and stick to one, because again, focus matters as much as diversity does. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyways, what about your other subjects? How did you go about preparing English, logic, maths, and legal? How was the preparation like?
So I feel like English and logic are very similar sections in a way. Logic definitely has more of the critical aspect, like where you really have to think about the strengthening, the weakening, the assumptions, and everything else that goes with it. English is more factual, I feel. So for me, the sources from where I would practice reading for English and logic were, as I said, the newspaper firstly. And honestly, I did not really spend much time on vocabulary, which I should have, maybe, because I remember losing marks there this year. So I would say definitely people should prepare for vocabulary. And apart from that, what I did personally was I just took sectionals and mocks. I would not say that I took too many sectionals this year. I mainly focused on mocks because I feel like when you are attempting a sectional, you just have the pressure of that one subject. When you're attempting a mock, you have that pressure of all the subjects. And I wanted my preparation to be as closely resembling CLAT as it could. So I feel like I just practiced mocks, and at the same time, I won't say that I practiced too many mocks. Like I remember in my first attempt, I might have practiced 100 odd mocks. But this year I practiced half of that. Because for me, my brain relaxing, getting that time to sort of process and recover from a mock, it's very important. Because otherwise my brain tends to get jammed. And I don't know if it happens with too many people, but it happened with me. So I figured out that, maybe not attempting that many mocks is the solution for me. But at the same time, it may not be the solution for everyone. So for people who feel like they're losing their rhythm. But for me, that is what worked because it helped me really analyze the mock properly. It helped me understand where I went wrong, and it helped me clear my mind.
I think, right, mocks, I don't think it's just been with you, it happens to a lot of students. Mocks, like writing a single mock with so much focus for 2 hours in a silent room, trying to focus on like 200 or 120, 150 questions is a mind-boggling experience, and you need time to recover from that. And more so, I think so many students attempt less in their second attempt, like mocks, because they want to be able to analyze properly. It's not really the number of questions that you're practicing, it's how much you're learning from the very small number of questions that you're practicing. So I think that would be ideal for students to be able to do as many mocks as they're able to analyze. So were mocks the go-to option for all your like subjects, or did you have anything specific, any specific source for say subjects like legal, where you also have legal knowledge, and there were also questions about contracts and its voidability that came outside of the passage this year. So how do you think that?
So, yeah, for legal, I would say I definitely did go for a bit of theory. So, one thing that I faced at the beginning of my prep in my second attempt is my legal marks dropped drastically. And that was a bit of a shock to me because I have always been good at legal. So, that's when I thought that maybe I need to go back to my basics, my theories. And I remember reading from Catapult's modules and just any sort of material that I could find on legal, easy material. Because I feel like reacquainting yourself with the concepts also takes time. Because I was out of touch with CLAT for 3 months. I was focused entirely on my boats.
Yeah.
So reacquainting, as I said, does take time, and it did take me time. I remember my legal score being around 15, 16, 17 out of 32 right at the beginning of my prep this year. But then eventually it went up to 26 plus. So yeah, I feel like definitely reading concepts, going through contracts, torts, crimes, constitutional law, etc. It's all very important because while we are told that nothing outside of the passage will be required, we have seen what CLAT has been like this year and even the past year. So again, that is a place where I feel like your basics are extremely important. And thankfully for me, my basics have always been very strong thanks to Catapult's classes, which I enjoyed attending a lot. And yeah, like I feel like once your basics are strengthened, you cannot forget certain things. Like when it came to the question about voidability, I feel like I just remembered being told and reading that we had options talking about a minor. So I just remember being told and reading that a minor is not eligible to contract, and a minor's contracts shall always be void, regardless of whatever the minor may know, however qualified they may be in other ways. So I feel like that goes a long way. That builds your confidence as well.
Yeah.
Like you are not swayed by distractors, and there are a lot of distractors in CLAT.
That that is a very interesting point of view to look at preparation, and I think it is always relevant wherever we also write our exams. All we can think of, it would be so much more easy if only we had attended classes properly. Because when you remember something, when somebody spoke something to you, that stays in your mind for a long time and becomes relevant. So right, but for legal, for sure, you would suggest preparing for theory, and your primary most useful component of your preparation has been to strengthen the basics so that speed can be covered up.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. So in general, there are two things that almost every top student recommends, and it's just widely recommended, that attempt a lot of mocks and read a lot. How do you think these two things were for you, and how did you, what did you feel like about these two tips, and what did you adopt?
So my approach has been pretty unconventional with my lesser number of mocks. So about the point about mocks, if you feel like attempting a lot of mocks is the way to go for you, then definitely attempt mocks. But don't make it an obligation. The moment it becomes an obligation, it becomes a burden, it messes with your mind, it jams your brain, and you cannot write anything, any exam with a jammed brain. You need your brain to be clear. And you may feel like my peers are attempting this many mocks, I am not, I am missing out. don't let that get to you. Just sort of disassociate it from everyone around you. Focus entirely on your prep. Look at your last mock score and try to improve from that. Even if you're getting a 95 on 120, try to get it to 100, because that is what the nature of the paper has been like. So I feel like your biggest competitor always has to be you. You cannot look at what others are doing. You can take inspiration, but you cannot be like, oh, I have to do this just because someone else is doing that. So yeah, definitely about the mock spit, I would say I feel like for many beginners, they are pretty anxious. So they feel like they do have to attempt as many years as they can. They feel like there are people who have prepared for longer. But for people who have prepared for as long as I have, we get a lot of clarity after having been in the process of preparing for CLAT and just being around CLAT in general, if that makes sense. So,
But you said you there's a lot of your biggest competitor is yourself, and I saw that you got a score of 90. So was that a huge change from the very first mock that you probably wrote at Cladipole a long time back?
so my first book was actually out of 150. So,
Oh,
so
so
the
the
pack,
score even changed. Yeah,
yeah,
that's Clat. It's changing always. Yeah.
correct. But so, no, actually 90 was a low score compared to the mock scores I got this year.
Okay.
I would get scores in around 95, 96. So I did not check the answers. I remember coming back home and not bothering to check the provisional answer key because I had A-Let and I did not want to
Well, am I the right way to go about it, honestly?
So because I'm someone who does not get anxious while prep, I get anxious after things are out of control.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the thing about mocks. About reading, I am not a reader at all. I used to be a reader up till like class 5 or 6, but then I think social media came in the way and there are a lot of distractors. So I'm not a reader, but because I have been fortunate enough to be able to go to a good school and always have teachers who encourage me to, be involved in things and sort of be involved in literature or any kind of thing that requires you to sort of research or read in general, it had not been a problem for me. I had taken time to obviously work on my reading speed, and it does take time, even if you're a reader, because when you're reading a book, you're not reading it with the stress of, having to finish one passage. You're reading it as something that you do in your leisure time. So I feel like it does take time to bring down your reading speed from, let's say, 3 minutes to 1 minute, which is what I managed to bring mine down to. So, yeah, definitely. Right at the beginning, reading is very important. But then again, the moment it feels like a strain, take a break.
Right.
Breaks are very important. People will not talk about breaks because they have this mindset that no, you have to go on and on. But I feel like taking breaks is also a part of going on and on, because if you don't, then you will not be able to function, and that will just destroy the purpose of your entire prep. So yeah, reading is definitely important, but you need to understand when to stop straining yourself.
Right, right. And you would suggest targeted reading over reading in general.
Yeah, because you never know what kind of passages you'll get. I, for one, was not fond of science-based passages. I loved politics, history, sociology, even psychology. When it came to science, I would struggle. When it came to stuff like Bitcoin, crypto,
Yeah.
AI, I would struggle.
The moment the numbers and economics also comes into the picture, it's like
Yeah.
how to focus. Yeah.
So no, diverse reading is the way to go. Targeted reading, I would not say, is a very wise approach. I mean, yeah, if you are feeling strained, as I said, and you want to still keep reading, then you can read stuff that you like. But like overall, it has to be balanced, because CLAT is very unpredictable. You never know what kind of passages they'll give you. So you need to be acquainted with everything.
And once you know a bit about everything, you sort of become a generalist so that if passage comes from anywhere, even if you don't know about the idea or topic, you're able to read through it because you have been familiarized with key terms, jargons, numbers, percentages. So yeah, diverse reading is definitely the option to go for.
And also here, I would say another thing is, let's say you are encountering a passage which you genuinely cannot make sense of.
Yeah.
Look at the questions first. The
Right.
questions may be easy. So I would not say that looking at the questions is always a good option, but when you are genuinely struggling, just go to the questions. Do not waste your time on the passage unnecessarily, because the questions might just be factual. It may not require you to understand anything. Or maybe you can focus on certain parts of the passage. So I feel like that is where being flexible even while attempting the exam becomes very important.
I think that's the trick by the examiners also, to either make the passages super difficult or passages super easy but questions very difficult, so that there's a balanced approach, because rarely is the case that both the passage and the questions are equally difficult for a student to tackle. So that makes sense. But coming to a lighter note, how did your journey with Catapult has been, and how has Catapult, like, how when you chose Catapult, how could you trust a coaching center with so much of your preparation, and how did you make the decision?
So, Catapult, I felt the one thing that always drew me is the fact that we have faculty who are law students themselves. And to be able to relate to a younger teaching staff in a way is very important, because no matter how open you may be as a teacher, there are students who will still hesitate to reach out to you if you are much older to them. I do not have that problem, but there are a lot of students who do. So, in general, to have someone you can just be very light around, who you don't have to worry about being overly formal with, is very important, and it really helps. And at the beginning of my prep, classes did not even feel like classes. It was just a lot of fun. And I think it is important to enjoy what you're doing. If your prep becomes a burden throughout, then you never know what your exam will go like. You'll have a lot of stress. And I feel like having faculty who are law students themselves, who understand what you are going through, who have been through something like that very recently, it helps a lot. And again, as I said, you can connect with them, you can reach out to them at odd hours.
Yeah.
I used to do that at times. And I think even they would respond. So, yeah, like I feel like that was a major factor. Definitely it drew me a lot. And yeah, like just in general, I remember attending classes. I remember really being able to figure out each subject and being comfortable with each subject. And no subject ever felt very difficult to me, very alien to me, because of the way it was simplified, because of the way my basics were established by everyone, and because of the fact that we could question. Like we open discussion was always encouraged in classes, and open discussion is very important everywhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you can discuss openly, you can obviously put forth your point of view, but at the same time, you can also understand other people's point of view. And that is also very important in an exam like CLAT, because you don't know what the examiner is thinking. So you need as many perspectives as you can. So yeah, that just really helped me.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you could share that with us though. But Catapult is good in the sense of bridging that wall of hesitation between a teacher and students. Even I interact with my students and I have a lot of fun interacting with them. And I think I never had that with my teachers, because they are like always at least 15 to 16 years older to me. And then you just can't vibe with them, if that's the right word, honestly. But coming to the most interesting aspect of this whole journey, your day on the day of examination, like what did you do before your exam, the night before? Did you study till 6 a.m. or did you just say, okay, we'll see what happens? And how did the exam in general go? And how did you feel after that?
So I feel like I was very rigid in my first attempt. I was like, I have to go to sleep by this time. I have to be asleep by this time. And this year I was like, I will sleep when sleep comes to me. I don't care. So, I feel like you need to let go of a lot of things. You need to really relax. And no, I would not suggest studying till 6 a.m. at all. I am someone who pulls all nighters on a daily basis, but not before an exam. And I feel like you cannot just randomly do it one night before the exam. You need to start at least 1 week before the exam, because in order to adjust your sleep schedule according to what your sleep schedule needs to be on the day before GLAD, you need to have that practice. Otherwise, it won't work out. So yeah, I just remember being very relaxed. I was definitely a bit nervous because I had this in the back of my mind ki the first time it did not happen, so you never know what will happen this time. But again, I was like, I'll go to the exam hall, I'll write the exam, I will not think about the result, which is a very important factor. So yeah, that's what I did. I had a good night's sleep. I did not sleep for too long, but however much I did sleep, it was enough for me.
Yeah.
And I was very relaxed up until I entered the examination hall. And I think we entered an hour before the exam. And I remember getting nervous then. And I decided that, okay, I'm feeling nervous. I will experience that nervousness before I get my paper. So I allowed myself to be nervous during that time, because nothing can go wrong in that time. As long as you're completely okay by the time the paper comes to you, you should be fine.
Yeah.
And that is what happened. The paper came to me. I saw that weird logic question. I saw a lot of problems in the question paper, but I was like, I just have to attempt what I know is correct. I just have to maximize my accuracy. Accuracy is very important. So I just have to do that, and whatever will happen, will happen. So I did that. I attempted the exam. I did not panic throughout. I stuck to my time allotment, which is again very important because if you don't stick to it, you'll always have this pressure ki, I have this section left, and that is also a major burden. So I feel like, yeah, I just stuck to whatever I had been doing in my mocks. I treated it as a mock. I did not treat it as glam. And that is very important. The moment you give something that much importance, ki this is what decides my entire life, that is when
The pressure gets to you.
exactly,
Yeah.
it really gets to you. So I did not let that happen to me. I was like, this is just another mock. It's no big deal.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how I attempted it. I took a lot of risks, as I said, with the max section, the 6 questions that I attempted without being sure. But yeah, I was like, I would do this in a mock, so I might as well do it here. So yeah, that's how it went for me. And
You're also aware that
right.
it's not just you who's facing weird questions or wrong questions, it's everybody else who's writing the exam.
Yeah.
So it just eases you a bit to see that everyone's dealing with this. I just need to figure out the best way to deal with it. Right. I'm glad you could share that with us, Ishika. Once again, congratulations. I hope you get the college that you want and everything works out. Thank you so much for coming.
You